All right, so without any further ado, let me first put the spotlight on you, and let me just start. Normally, we have a very formal introduction for people who are coming on this channel, but being a hasher, Fatfatia, as Manoj is best known to all of us, we really don't need to give much of an introduction other than if we see any serious runners running anywhere ahead of the pack is most likely going to be uh, Manoj. And if we see somebody who's still running at midnight, it might just be Manoj. And if you are on your way to the moon, you might find Manoj running next to your spaceship as well. So anything to do with running, yes, Fatfatia will be there, as we lovingly call Manoj in the Bangalore hash. And with that little bit of introduction, let me.
Right. So thanks so much. It's indeed very special to to talk to the Bangalore hash. Simply because this is almost like talking to my own to something that I hold really very close to my heart. And because a whole lot of what running has given me wouldn't have happened without Ash, for sure. They call me Fatpatia there because I used to also combine the Bangalore hash with some motorcycling. So I used to come biking to wherever the hash was. I used to 20-25 minutes. Let's have a conversation towards the end. So
yeah.
don't have much of a presentation per se. So I want to spend the first 20-25 minutes just briefly talking about what this whole mindless running got me, where it took me in terms of in terms of how it all came together. And to that effect, this is perhaps the biggest highlight of my running. Of course, finding the false trails on the hash, nothing can beat that joy. And there are runs where I've probably done about 10 or 12 of them, and I really curse each one of them. But nevertheless, let's get back to what I was saying. So this is a highlight of this is really the highlight of my running. So all of those 10 12 years of running, and then and a whole lot of that we were doing back then was really nothing to do with there's some background noise. If you could, I mean, it for a minute sounded like I was back on track, but all the 10-12 years of running really has you're doing it just for the joy of it and all of that. One day I remember very distinctly, we were driving back, Sunil Chanani Rosex, he was driving, we after one of our Nandi Hill runs, we were driving back. I think we stopped at Decathlon or something, and then he was telling me about this one runner, Kairan, who got a chance to represent the country in ultra running. And I was like, I looked at him, and for a minute, my I had goosebumps. The hair on my forearm had just stood up, and I was like, does that even happen? I mean, is it even possible to represent the country in ultra running? And then he gave some details. He said it's trail running and blah blah blah. And 2 years later, it so happened that I got the chance to represent India. It was a selection that happened back in those days. This was 2018. I got a chance to be a part of the Asia and Oceanic Championship as a part of the Indian team. You can see the Indian team on this slide on the left here. I'm the guy there, by the way, with that big hairdo and all of that I was sporting. I don't know why I had a pony in the picture on the right. But yeah, I mean, got a chance to represent India. There's absolutely nothing that beats that experience of carrying the national flag.
Avnash, can you mute everybody?
To carry the national flag onto the during the flag ceremony. In fact, we were even lucky enough, thanks to Mr. Ullas Narayan, you see on the right next to me. And he actually managed to clock 250 kilometers in 24 hours that day, and win himself a bronze medal individual, and also win the first bronze medal for India in an ultra running event, internationally. So that was really how it panned out. It was really a great event. Ross was our team manager, and we all got to wear this very beautiful bronze medal. I think I'll cherish it for for life. This is really very special. Now, and this event was really the 24-hour format. In a 24-hour format, what happens is, I'll just go briefly back up here on the right side. There is a track, a stadium, and then you got to you start there at the designated start time, which is like in this case it was 9 a.m. And this is probably one of the earlier snaps. You can see the sun beating down, etc. So it was a 9 a.m. start, and you run all along the whole day until 9 a.m. the next day, which is 24 hours. And within that 24 hours, you're given a track that you need to run in. Basis my seeding, I was in track number 3, which is probably for all the slow runners who are there. And then of course you had to do multiple laps around that. It'll get counted, and then the team that does the most number of kilometers gets to go on the podium, right? So on that particular day, we were third to Japan, who came first, Australia, who came second, and the Indian team came third, beating the locals, the Chinese, Taipei team, the Mongolians, a whole lot of other participating nations. So it was quite a prestigious event. Now, just to explain, what happens in a 24-hour run, I'll briefly switch to a short video, and let me just showcase what really happens in a 24-hour run. So this was shot by the Australian team. They made a nice video of the whole, and this is the Australian team that is there. A little bit of a flag ceremony and I'm just sharing this so you can kind of get an idea of what people go through in those, in those 24 hours. In case you already haven't had the first-hand experience. For experienced people, you can just skip and we can have a quick break and come back in 4 minutes time. But yeah, I mean, so essentially everyone is given tents. Each country is given a tent, and then all of these runners from various countries at the, like I said, a 9 a.m. start. The Indian tent is right up there. Sunil Sharma is kind of putting his bib on, etc. These are the Japanese guys, all crazy runners. He's called, yeah, so he just did I think a 67-hour run just before a few months before he came to that particular event. The Indian team is also there getting ready. So and that lady there from the Australian team, I would want to kind of allow us to focus on that. So the run starts, everyone starts running in their designated lane. This is on the right side, you can see all these tents. These are the support tents that are there, where the support crew can be handing out gels and food and and whatever else the runners need. The only thing is, you can leave the track very briefly, but you got to come back because otherwise you won't your mileage. That's about the rule. I mean, the rule is very simple, but as you can see, it was really very hot, and runners are. I typically don't cramp too often. We can see how much people are struggling. It was brutally hot. Some of the more experienced runners took it very easy on the first few hours. Came back and attacked the pace. I was a little bit of a nut, so I went out really fast to start, and I struggled later on stages. But I just want to talk about what happens mentally, right, in these runs. There is typically after about say 4, 6, 8 hours or so, depending upon your physical ability, almost everyone breaks down, right? So the body really, is not doing anything more after a certain point. It's really the mind that is pushing you to keep going, right? Lap after lap, it is really important to make sure. Um, I mean, because there is some part of you that is hurting. I mean, there is some entertainment as well that's going on. See, this is Pia, okay? So this is the lady I wanted to focus on. she was perhaps 50s. She was a part of the Australian team. She came and she was doing, and this one is the record holder, in from Australia.
Manoj, sorry to interrupt you, but your voice is breaking. Are you holding the
Oh.
mic right, or is your internet connection okay?
Yeah, it should be okay. I'll check the internet connection just after this.
Yeah, please. Okay.
So what's happening here is, I mean, of course, during the later stages in the run, the lady who was the record holder, she went, she got into a coma and, she couldn't be retrieved until the race was over. A lot of people had a lot of problems right from heat stroke to, uh, the bodies just gave up. I mean, I've seen people go to the brink in some of these races. But most importantly, the guy who really strike it out, and somewhere here we just yeah, it should be coming. So she came down for a break as well. You can see she's sitting on a chair there and just trying to relax for a bit. And it's so easy to give up on these races because you've done your best. The conditions are harsh. It always is. But the real champions are the ones who really keep it going. And you can look at how stiff she's already become, right? So she's just limping to the start line. She doesn't know which way it is. Um, we put beds there so people can take power naps if they want. Some people don't wake up at all. I was one of those cases that day. Um, but most importantly, she gets up to the track, and unbelievable what the mind is capable of doing. Because the moment she goes on the track, she started to run again. It's just unbelievable. And she ran, for the remaining 6 hours like that, just wobbling and shuffling along. And she completed 219 kilometers that day, and she was the third best woman uh, on that particular day. It's unbelievable. And our own Ullas Narayan also kept a very very amazing pace all right along, and just finished 250 kilometers. Like I said, I just fast forward very quickly to what happens in the end, right? So as the daybreak happens, people are all trying to count down. You have 3 more hours to go. You have 2.5 hours to go. You have 2 hours to go. This is Dan Lawson. He quit halfway in the race. That guy is Shaggy, and he's unbelievable. He did a quarantine 360 kilometers in his garage. Yeah, it's amazing what people are capable of doing. These are the last laps. So everyone carries around their flag. They're all in a cheer. See, that's Tia. She's still slugging it on the track. Our own guys were no less great as well. So all happiness around, but it's really a tough 24 hours. It's all in the mind. There is no way to prepare for these runs. It's got to be, it's got to be a push. I wouldn't really say it's the most healthiest thing around, but that's the way it is. We'll get back to the PPT, and just wanted to kind of give a quick snapshot of what really happens. What's the let me just so a little bit of my own story, and how I got back, a little bit of how this whole mind over muscle really works. This was so I did a pretty poor race that day, and I signed up for the next one in 2 weeks time. I was running Delhi 24 hours in 2 weeks. That included the travel back. My family called me crazy. I wanted to use up the unused gels. So actually I wanted to kind
Went for
of
24 hours run within a span of 2 weeks.
yeah, within a span of 2 weeks, I signed up for another one, and I did a 176 kilometers in Delhi that day. But 3 months later, again, I was running another one in Chandigarh, and this is a story that that needs to be told. I really trained hard, and by now, I was getting a sense of what you need to do and how much mileage you need to put in, which is about 100 kilometers a week consistently, say for 6 to 8 weeks. A lot of mileage. Just so what happened was, I was supposed to fly to Chandigarh, at a day before the event, and just one day before that, which is 2 days, 48 hours before the event is supposed to start, I was doing a regular. I go to my mom's place to get some lunch, and then I was coming back home on my road bike, and there was a stick that was lying down on the road that I didn't notice, and I went over it and I fell. When I fell, I twisted my knee, and I have a surgery on my left knee, which is what you can see. That's it's never this swollen, but the surgery was about 8-10 years back. So the surgery was not important. But when I fell, I damaged the ligament again, and I knew that pain, to be exactly what the ligament tear is. That pain, and immediately my knee started swelling up. I knew this is not good news at all. I mean, I knew I couldn't even walk. I was limping. I sat down. There's some few people came around and say to see what happened. They sat me to the side of the road. I was crying like a baby, and they were like, they couldn't figure out what, they couldn't see blood. He just fell by himself. And fell off a cycle. What could be wrong, right? And my dreams were shattered, right? Because of all the hard work and training, and there's a lot that goes into training, because it's just not. There's you got a family, you got a career, you got to kind of balance all of that. And then when you have 2 days left and this what happens, I was like, really pretty sad. But then I decided to go there anyway. And a day before the event, Arun Bharadwaj, who was there with the orange t-shirt there, he's a guy, amazing guy as well. He ran from Kashmir to Kanyakumari way back in, I don't know, 2012. Amazing, represented a lot of India in a lot of ultra events. So he told me, I was limping. I went limping to the stadium to pick up my bib. He told me, Manoj, don't worry, miracles happen. I said, yeah, okay, whatever, right? So I mean, I was still okay. I went back to my room, and I was just taking it easy. Next day, I mean, the event was at 6 p.m. So I put on a nice tight leggings, for most of it, almost like a marriage bridal wear types for me for running. So I put that on, and I was like feeling pretty good about. I mean, it felt good. So in the room itself, I did a few. I just shuffled, up and down a bit. Felt okay. Let's go. Let's try. So I went to the stadium, and in my mind, I was like, you talk about mindfulness, right? Which is about being in the moment. This really was one of those for me, because I just couldn't get ahead of myself. I couldn't. There's no way at that point I was thinking 24 hours. Absolutely no way. I was thinking maybe 3 hours, 4 hours. Let me just give it a shot, right? And then I said, okay, forget 3 hours, 4 hours. Let me just see how long I can go. As in, and then walking was giving me grief. I couldn't walk too well because I had to extend the leg, and that caused me pain. I said, okay, so God has just taken away the walking ability, right? Let me just try and jog and see how far I can go. And I went 30 minutes into the run. I felt really good. I was feeling, yeah, okay. So let me just keep my pace. And I had no support, so I had a box of gels and things like that I kept aside. But later, of course, Peter and he came along and started handing the gels to me. It was awesome. But then I kept going, and I started doing some really unbelievable mileage and timing, and the weather was reasonable. I was thinking only the next moment, right, or that very moment. That's about it. I thought maybe 16 hours I'll stop. I kept going, maybe 18 hours. I kept going, and I just kept going, and I did 202 kilometers that day, which is my best for 24 hours. And I came second, to Sunil Sharma, who did some 212, I think. And this is the image of my swollen feet. The day after the event, it took some time to for that swelling to go, but the pride, I was really swelling with pride that day, and that really didn't abate for a really long time. It was unbelievable. So the point I'm trying to make is that there are, and I told this, we last week I did another crazy run with a couple of other of my friends, and I was telling Jay, I was telling him there are always hundreds of reasons for you not to do something, hundreds of reasons, right? There could be, I mean, you just had an injury, you haven't trained well, it's too hot, there's too much pollution, it's too cold, it's whatever. But there's only one reason why you want to do it. There's always only one reason why you want to do it. That's it. It's so mental, it's absolutely everything is in the mind. It's everything in the mind. That's the point that I want to make, right? So, and just I'm going to take a short detour to the historic old days of running, and how it all started for me, and and where I ended up, right? So this is me, the guy here with the red cap on the left side, and again on the same on the right. This is the planetarium. You don't see it like this anymore. This was the first Bangalore Lipton Bangalore Marathon 2005. A few hashers, a handful of hashers ran this. Perhaps the only active group that was there in running wise was the hash. Of course, RFL was there, running Runners for Life, and they were handing out. I remember somewhere near Makery Circle or so. Makery Circle was a circle, by the way. And then they were handing out these brochure kind of things that said, "Come to Alsur Lake and run with us," and all of that kind of stuff. It was quite hilarious. Why would I go 10 kilometers from here, from where I live, to run 5 kilometers? It sounds funny back then, but it's not funny anymore. I go much more distances. But anyway, so those were the early days. And then of course a whole lot of this, I don't know how much I owe the hash really for all this madness. This is the picture in the center is one from the hash FRB, the front running B, as in most runs. And then a whole lot of attitude, right? Mentally, is what the hash has really given us, right? You see a hill, you run it up. You see a false trail, you say, okay, turn back and run it down again. You know that there is a false trail that you're going to, you run it anyway. And you run if it is 6 kilometers, you run if it is 8, you run if it is 12, you don't complain. You run if there is a water stop, you don't run if there is, you run if there is no water stop, you run if there is a, if the GMSR has spiked it with some vodka, you run if there is watermelon, you run if there is, just oranges, right? So the hash, really thought a lot of those. Today, when I look at youngsters who complain that they went into an ultra marathon, and and they were not able to, and they didn't get enough support. It's quite funny, when that happens, because we kind of have a different mindset to the whole running. So it took me to a lot of places. Long story short, I carry my running shoes anywhere and everywhere whenever I go for this, whenever I travel and work. On the right side, the nice beautiful picture was from a place called Cluj-Napoca, which is in Romania. Just happened to be in another neighboring city. Took an overnight train, which was really stinking, and with a completely drunk rag in the compartment, but thoroughly enjoyed the course and the environment and all of that. On the left bottom is a in 2009 we Atreya, that is Atreya, and I and a few hashers. Again, we did a little bit of a Hebal to Nandi run back then, and we invited a whole lot of folks to come and join us. Shantanu would probably remember that run. And then Atreya and I, we completed the 50 some kilometers right up to the top, with a lot of fanfare those runs, but I've moved a bit. Yeah, and as far as running goes and family goes, this is what I created from in the Garmin 205 that I had. Shreya is my wife, if you're thinking. So this was a meme that I created for our wedding anniversary. So we used to live in HSR. I got this idea about a week back, and I thought, oh, this will look nice. So I did a little bit of a recce, thanks to Hash. I know the recce, and then I had to do a lot of circus. This place where you see the R, it's not very very pretty. That's because I had to kind of jump over a fence in the park and then go over and all of that. I forgot one piece of that R. But yeah, I mean, I came back home. It was raining that day. I came back home. Then I plugged it into my computer. Shreya was wondering what's wrong. How come he hasn't even wished me? It's our anniversary and all of that. And I said, see, if you just run with your heart, this is what happens. And then she looked at the screen and she was like blown. So a lot of my friends joked after. They said, if you do this for the second, I don't know what will happen when you do it for your third. What will you do for your third? You set the bar real high. Some other people, who had wives like Vijay Kumari and all of that said, there's no way they're doing this without doing an ultra. So that's on the on the family side. There are few others. There are a whole lot of other events that that again kind of test you. Every event is different. This was from the Malnad Ultra. I finished. So the Malnad Ultra was funny as well because, you know, on each of these events there's a little bit of there's always a balance that you got to strike between, you know, how do you manage your training, how do you manage your family, and so on and so forth. This again was one of those where we did a little bit of a family trip. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, yeah, thanks, Dilip. A little bit of a family, uh, trip around. So we stayed in Chikmagalur, and then, I had to take a bike early morning to land there. I just came in time, as the race was starting. I had just enough time to put my drop bags. I just had a torch, I think, which was mandatory. Nothing else. I carried nothing else. I just relied on whatever support was provided on the course. I just put the torch there, which is the headlamp, and then changed very quickly, and then got to the start line, looked around, saw Atreya, a couple of other familiar faces, just did a quick wave, and then we started off. And as soon as the first, it started from the top of Kemangundi and went into the estates, and then finished back on top. Now the good thing is when we just started, and it was like at 4-5 a.m. or so, I think. It was a little fairly dark, and or 6 a.m. if I can't remember exactly. When we were running down, I remember the first turn was off to the left. There were a few estate workers standing there and cheering people off. Everyone went left, and Manoj Bhatt went right. So I just quickly went, found a nice coffee bush, and did my morning rituals. Was very happy with the first success of the day already. And then when I got back to the trail, everyone had passed everyone. So I started pretty much at the end as the last guy. I went past everyone, and with the last, this was a 110-kilometer run, finishing off at the top of Kemangundi with I think 8 or 9 kilometers of climb in the end, which was in the Ghat climb. And as I was climbing with about a kilometer or two to go, I caught up with Atreya, who was leading. So which means that I'd passed pretty much everyone. We both finished just a few seconds off each other. Atreya first, very deserved first, and I just finished right behind him. So it was a great experience again. And yeah, well, Naveen Tangaya, the Crush Nuts, is the one who was really responsible for how I started getting into the stadium runs. And he got me on my first 12 hours. We really did. He was doing his 36 that day, and I stuck with him for the first 8 hours. And after 8 hours, I mean, I just followed his advice of staying slow and staying relaxed. After 8 hours, I told him, boss, I'm feeling very fresh. I'm feeling like I haven't even started running. So he said, yeah, you might as well start now. We just have 4 hours. So I went running, and it was great. I finished, I think, yeah, I must have finished second or third on that particular day. The most memorable one, of course, was a 186-kilometer that I did in Bangalore, where I was constantly being chased by by a couple of young legs, and had to really slog it out in the last 40 minutes. I had to run non-stop in order to make sure that I win that event. That is the event that actually got me qualified to the national team. After having done 189 kilometers. A quick one uh, around what's the breaking the mental barrier, right? So my advice is really for you to pick anything that you want to do. Anything, if that's something that you like, that's great. But even otherwise, just make up your mind to like it, and you will get to like it for sure, right? The mind is such an amazing thing that you keep telling you keep faking it till you make it, right? Fake it till you make it, they say. It's exactly that. Just keep telling yourself that fitness is what is you should be doing, or whatever it is, right? Running is what I like to do, or walking is what I like to do, or whatever it is, and that is what it'll get you there. So so this is one crazy one that I did last year during the lockdown. So all of the lockdown last year, I was running at this 1 kilometer stretch near my house. So there's this one, on the bottom you can see the map. This is 1 kilometer from Sanjay Nagar main road to. Oh no, this is not that. Sorry, wrong map there. But yeah, I mean there's a 1 kilometer stretch, or maybe it's just shown wrong. I don't know. It is that stretch anyway. that that I used to always keep doing up and down, and there was this race to the moon, which is also happening right now, where they ask you to virtually upload your runs. You get to participate from wherever, etc. So as a finish off for that particular event, I thought I'll do 100K in that 1 kilometer stretch. So I started really early by 2 a.m. or so, and no 12 a.m. or so, and finished by 12. So I did 50 laps up and down in a 1 kilometer stretch. On the right is another crazy one. This was a 6 hour, another Athletic Federation of India event. Again, another chance to represent the country. 6 hours. It was called a solidarity run. Happened last year. I managed to do a 66 kilometer in 6 hours on that particular day, just running around the outside of Kantirava, because Kantirava was closed. And so we did, a few of us participated. Of course, there were 6 or 9 member India team. So we did this loop around Kantirava Stadium, like this. Yeah, this was another one, but this one is really fresh off the press. This is last week. Yeah, so just a week before this, I did a 80K where. So here is what has happened since the last Nandi run I talked to you about, which was in perhaps 2010 or so. Back then, people were still figuring out how to cycle to Nandi Hills, and here we were, two of us who had actually run all the way from Hebal to Nandi Hills. So then, over a period of time, when I was training for these 100Ks and 12 hours and 24 hours and all of that, the training runs itself started getting quite exciting, right? So the most favorite thing that I really love doing is run to Nandi Hills from home. I stay in Bangalore North, close to RMV, near Hebal. So I just get out near Ganganagar. It's about a kilometer, and then from there on, I run towards Yelahanka, and then take the back road all the way that goes to the base of Nandi, and then climb the top, which is exactly 51 kilometers from home. So earlier I used to, of course, you know the story about how there were a bunch of us who did it together first time round. Second time round, I did it with Naveen Tangaya, the two of us wearing our camel backs with about 1-2 liters of water each, and with some food, and we managed to do it. And then the third time around, I did it alone with a camel back. The fourth time around, fourth, fifth, sixth time around, maybe the camel back went off. There was no water. I just carried some gels in my socks, stuffed it there, and then managed. Next time, there was no t-shirt. So I pretty much got very minimalist. Now I run to Nandi Hills like you would do your regular early morning walk. So only thing is I start at 3 a.m., which means I got to sleep at about this time in the evening on a Friday or a Saturday, depending upon when I'm running. So I force myself to sleep, which is another trait I have picked up over the years. And then wake up at 2 o'clock, start my run by 3, get to Nandi top at 8 o'clock precisely. There was a block where I ran to Nandi Hills, I think about 6 times in 2 months, right? Just from home to Nandi, 50 kilometers every weekend. And the variation in my run timings were, I used to finish this in 4 hours and 55 minutes at best to 5 hours and 3 minutes at worst. So that used to be how tight it used to be. I mean, it was not as if I was focusing on pace, but just so happens that you keep consistent with what you do. You just get comfortable at one particular thing. Then, of course, as soon as you reach the top, I turn around. If I'm carrying a t-shirt, I just put it on just to look more civilized. And I turn around and start asking for a lift, right? And invariably, there'll be a two-wheeler who will provide me a drop either till once all the way to Hebal. Another time, many times it's usually to the bottom, or it's from where I catch a bus, or it is to the highway from where I catch a what is this DVD buses, the ones that come from they go through Devanhalli. That's another experience, to talk in one of the hash parties at a later stage. But yeah, fun time. But this, of course, was a ring road run. So this 2 weeks back, no, last year, I decided, I thought I'll do Nandi Hills and back, right? Because every time I turn back at Nandi Hills and look at that milestone that says Bangalore 50 kilometers, I'm like, hey, that's doable. right? And I did that a few times before I made up my mind to do it. I had a support from one of my neighbors who got very excited with this whole idea and wanted to. He was an army guy, wanted to kind of jump along for support, but unfortunately he had 3 punctures that day, so he couldn't do too much of support until the last 30 kilometers. And I figured probably I can do all of this without support. So I started off 3 weeks back, all the way to Nandi again, with just the camel back and some food and all of that at 2 a.m. or so. I reached the Nandi base, having done 45 kilometers. But I was turned back because they wouldn't allow me to go up, because they said there are cheetahs, and if I had company, they would have. Who knew in all this social distancing and all of that, it would really help to have company, and and cops would actually suggest that. But regardless, I was turned around at the base just after that very steep first climb, and then I turned around and got back home, finished about 80 kilometers. That gave me, and I said, okay, fine, there is some unfinished business. So I looked up, and the ring road was a looked really nice. So, like I said, a couple of my friends, Vignesh and Jay, they joined me. They came from Kurmangla all the way to Hebal, joined me, and then we went around, first hitting Magdi Road, and then Mysore Road, and then Kanakpura Road, and all the hash sites where we used to do all the runs once, and then finished. And then, if you can see this picture, I really like this because the green strip is really the ones where you're keeping pretty decent pace. So near Kormangla-ish, slowing down because my mates had already 50 kilometers on their feet, and we were taking it easy. But I kept it quite steady after. The last 30K was in about 3.5 hours, so I was pretty happy with the overall effort. So that was the ring road run, 71 kilometers in 8 hours and 45 minutes. Really quite an experience because it started at 7 p.m. I started at 7 p.m. and finished at 3:45 in the morning. Yeah, it was quite crazy. Yeah, that was really, I don't have really great messages, but I just like to leave you with this thought. If there is if at any point you feel that you're not able to do whatever you want to do, whatever it is, whether it is sport or life in general, right? So it's important to kind of break down. Think of it like like mental barriers. Get to the start line. I mean, if you don't get to the start line, there's no way you'll get to the finish line. You got to have the courage to say, I'm going to start this journey, and you got to keep at it. It's really beautiful how they say success is a meeting point of opportunity and hard work. And really, you should keep the hard work going without really a focus on opportunity, and opportunity will come, and really it'll blow you away. So that's really where I want to kind of stop it, and I'm happy to kind of spend time and understand, and if any comments and either you on the chat.
Okay, so Manoj, you can stop sharing so that we can have you full screen back. Yeah, that is good. And so the very first question from my side is that if you were to repeat this whole story once again,
Oh yeah,
what would you do different?
nothing.
All
Absolutely
right.
nothing. Absolutely
Okay.
nothing. I think the only thing that I would do different is probably do more hash runs. I just love the trails there. Yeah, yeah. Seriously, I mean, there's probably nothing else really. It's been such a beautiful journey I have, uh, and thanks so much for for the Bangalore Hash for really kindling that that love for trails, the love for running. Uh, it's unbelievable. Once you're hooked, there's nothing I would do different.
That is great, but your talk was really inspiring, and now we'll open up for questions. May I suggest that people who want to ask questions directly, please just raise your hands by uh, doing something like uh, this, which I've just done on my symbol. You can do that and uh,
Yeah.
ask
So let
ask
me yeah.
question.
So let me just take the first question. I think Sridharan has asked, how do you plan your fueling hydration during the run? Okay, so here again, I mean, most of the things that I do.
Uh, just unmute yourself, Manoj.
Sure, done. Yeah. Yeah. So the question was mostly around fueling and hydration, and I've come. I have a story for everything, so just ask me. Right. So 24-hour runs. It was interesting. I went into Taiwan. That was the second or the third 24-hour I had done. And I carried half a kilo of peanuts roasted with a lot of jaggery. And Ullas, who had like this experience of 20 years, he told me, "Boss, you can't run this race on people." So I started with really, with really very solid food and all of that. Um, how do you plan and then started working on a plan. I never knew that you had to really plan for these things. But eventually, within my the third one, which is in Chandigarh, I ran the 24 hours. I had consumed, I think that's my personal best, 21 gels in 24 hours. That's my personal best. It's horrible. Don't do it. Right? Having so many gels really causes cuts here. The throat is gone. You can't taste for the next 4 days. It's really crazy. I mean, the amount of chemicals. I don't know. I mean, they all claim that they're chemical free, etc. But the amount of chemicals that you infuse is not funny. But but having said that, right, you need about 300 calories every hour for in order to sustain you for 24 hours. And that means a whole lot of idli sambar if that's what you want to do, right? 6 idlis and maybe a couple of vadas thrown in for a good measure, right? You can't do that hour after hour, no matter what, how good a hasher or bookamper you are. So you got to kind of complement that with some of these gels and solid food. For I don't fret about these things. I've done so now I figured out that if I want to kind of do a 24-hour run, I probably do about a gel every hour or once every 2 hours with some solid food thrown in between. For my training runs, what I do is I kind of keep experimenting again. I don't like to have gels regularly. So in Chennai, I was in Chennai recently. I've been doing some 24-hour fasts as well. So I do my runs on empty, and the best I have done is a 50-kilometer run just after a 30-hour fast. So I've fasted for 30 hours, have not eaten anything, and I've gone on a 50 kilometer. Yeah, it's funny. I've gone on a 50-kilometer run without eating anything, just with water. So I've done crazy stuff like that, but I plan now. So I do about 200, 300 calories an hour, which will come from gels, which will come from chickis. I like peanut butter. I like date syrup, bananas, any other solid food that's thrown in, not chapati kinds, but chapati roti kinds, but fruit, dates, dry fruits, and so on. Fueling again, I mean hydration again. Go where they feel, but typically make sure you drink every 30 minutes or so, and some electrol and stuff like that thrown in. So that's I had a very meticulous fueling, Excel sheet and all that, but I won't bore you guys.
Okay, one more question is around several people here may have gotten inspired by what you have been doing and what you have been saying. So, young or old, people who are much younger than you or those who are now in their 50s, what would you suggest to them to uh, beat some barriers of their own and do something crazy like you?
See I mean, I look at it like a riverbed full of pebbles, right? Running or fitness, you extend that, right? There are a lot of colorful pebbles. You just have to pick whatever appeals to you, right? And every pebble is great in its own way. So I would say, pick up what drives you, right? Just pick up something that will be fun for you. It could be badminton. It could be a sport. Whatever it is that you want to kind of that you think you'll be able to sustain. The important thing is sustenance, right? Give it time. It'll take time for anything for your body to get used to. If you've been sedentary, it'll take a long time. If you have been running, for me, if I'm running, if I have to shift into badminton, I know it'll take time. For swimming, I know I need to give a year. But when you give it that amount of time, you start enjoying it. When you start enjoying it, it just fulfills that virtuous cycle. And before in 5 years time you will be giving this talk on the other side, right? And I've never managed to inspire too many people, to be honest. In fact, my own family took a long time to warm up to this whole madness. But surprisingly, my dad is now 79, just before a year or two before COVID. He came to the stadium runs. He saw me. He saw how people kind of really admire what I've been doing and things like that. And he turned a leaf. I told him, look, you're 76, and then I told him there is a research paper that says that if you lift weights, even at this age, right, there is a whole lot of benefit that you'll be able to get. 3 months of lifting weights and going to a gym can advance your muscle and your bone density by 3 years. So you'll get that much more benefit as far as anything is concerned, osteoporosis or blah blah blah, right? So I just told him that one day, and then didn't expect much. I used to visit a local gym, and then 2 days later I see that he's there in the gym. At just before I have reached there, he's there. And I'm like, okay, so is there something you wanted to tell me? I don't carry my cell phone. So is there something you wanted to? How come you're here? He said, I came here to work out. I'm like, what's going on, right? And then he kept it going for 2 years, until this whole COVID stuff, messed up. But he was going there even before the gym opens. He would be there. I mean, some of this profession. I mean, he used to work in Bharat Electronics, where they used to work by the siren, right? So 3 minutes before the siren, you got to be on your floor. So he used to be there sharp on time every day, show up every day for your workout. Unbelievable. In 2 years time, he's inspired a whole lot of folks. So here's the thing. I mean, it's not about when you start. I was talking about Shaggy the other time when I showed you on the video. Yeah, that guy started running when he was 50, and today he's putting youngsters to shame, on ultra running. He recently did a quarantine ultra marathon where he ran in his car garage, which can hold 3 cars, so it's slightly big, not as small as ours. But he ran for 3 days there, on each day doing 120 kilometers, because 120 kilometers a day, go sleep, come back, do the same, 120 kilometers, go sleep, come back. So, and he started when he was 51, and today maybe 55. So unbelievable stuff, really. I mean, you just put your mind to it, just give it time, allow your body to get used to it, and then start enjoying it. And that's about it. With running, it's very simple. You just have to put one foot in front of the other, period. That's it.
Okay, great. So Raghu has got some questions on which are the trails that you liked in the runs which we have been doing.
Oh, the hash runs. Oh, the hash runs. I don't remember too many hash runs.
Well,
I don't remember the trails. Because
the most famous one you can't forget, the one which became the Kaveri Trail Marathon.
No, not the Kaveri Trail Marathon. I'll tell you the one that I can't forget, right? The one that I can't forget is the one that we did from the Prakriti Resort.
Yes.
Bangalore North. You're right. So this was the deal that, I was the live hair. So we thought, okay, fine, give the live hair 10 minutes of notice, and then he's going to run around up the trail. We are going to catch him. Right? So that if the rest of the FRBs catch up with you, you've had it. So you better be laying the trail and running fast. So that was the deal. I said, okay, fine. So I went there, obviously did recce a couple of days back. So I knew the trail. I thought I had also, just before the start of the run, I had gone around and kept some chalk bags in a couple of places, so I didn't have to carry 5 or 6 kgs of chalk. So I carried just enough, and then I started running. Thankfully, the walkers, I had told them after the halfway point, I had told my wife that she could get the walkers back on the road. So till halfway point, everything was okay. And then, just as I was finishing off my drink, I looked around and I saw the FRBs come through. So I said, okay, fine. And I started going. So that one, as I was going, I lost my way, right? And then, I couldn't get to the chalk. So I was out of chalk. So it just so happened that, the trail, I was supposed to go like this, but I just missed it by a few degrees. So I ended up in a completely different place. I had no clue. And then I just kept going, and then I couldn't find the roads that I was familiar with. I was out of chalk, and I think that none of the FRBs were carrying. There was a good bunch of 6 or 7 of them, including some expats. They were not carrying their phones. That was the end of it. I took some lift. I borrowed phone and called up and told my wife, I'm lost, send rescue. and the walkers were wondering, and then they went around asking in villages where did they see runners, and all of that. Eventually, after like a good mela, we kind of were rescued. The other one I remember was Avaralli Forest, where with my kids, the skies just opened. That was very recently. It poured like nobody's business, and then we were all drenched to the core. I had to come back and put on heater on my car to warm them up. It was quite lot of good fond memories. But I can't remember one particular trail. How important is stretching? How do you say injury free? What is your next frontier? Okay, so how important is stretching? Not important at all. Don't stretch. How important is warm up? I used to be a coach, and I'm giving you contra advice. I used to never start runs without warming up or without stretching. BS. So put all of that out of your mind. You don't need fancy shoes. You don't need fancy places. You don't need fancy equipment. Nothing. So you can just start running. Just make sure that the first 1-2 kilometers is slow and steady, and then pick up your pace as you go along, because the body is warmed up by then anyway. Stretching, no, I don't stretch. In fact, I think when I stretched, I got more injuries. So stretching is for sissies. So drop it. You don't need it. I mean, if you feel, do it if you feel good. I mean, research also says that. I mean, research has found that there is really no science that says stretching is good or stretching is bad. They haven't figured that out. But what they say is, if it feels good, do it. If you don't, drop it. It's not important. If I get those 10 minutes extra, I'd probably run 2 kilometers more. What's your next frontier? Next frontier is in 16 days from now. Come and witness another slugfest at the Bangalore 24-hour stadium run. I'm going to be, hey, the beer's out. Yeah, I'm going to be running the 24-hour again at the Bangalore stadium run that's happening in Vidyanagar near off Airport Road in 2 weeks' time. So that's next. Yeah, and not a beer inside. I really loved the hash simply because the way it got me hooked on to was, after you finish, you do all those downs in the sunset. Amazing stuff. I mean, just love my long runs and my beers. Strength training, yes, it does help. It helps because it helps you keep your form. As you're running, when you get tired and your muscles are fatigued, there's a good chance that you will recruit other muscles and you'll pull an injury here and there. If you're strong, you can go on for much longer. You can keep a good form, and that's what helps. And talking about good form, it's also important that you get used to a pace that you are comfortable with. Going even too slow is not so good, because inefficiencies, and your hips will fall, and you will probably use inefficient muscle group, etc. We keep it at your optimal pace, which means you're doing what is right for you. Too fast is also bad, and too slow is also equally bad. So find what you're comfortable with. And when I say comfortable, it usually means a conversational pace. So if you run at the hash, you know what I'm talking about, right? So you're doing all of those gossip until you find your check back. And then
Shravana asked a question that it's walking is fitness for the lower body. How does one keep the upper fit if stretches are not important?
You can do simple body weight exercises to keep yourself. See, fitness is what you're looking at. I mean, it doesn't take much, right? So what science says is 20 minutes of something that will get you sweating is a good enough prescription for fitness, right? So that's all you need, right? You don't necessarily need to have upper body strength or lower. You can do a lot of free body exercises, and that should hold you in good state for upper body strength. You don't need much. If you're walking, try and see if you can slowly start peppering a little bit of a run, an 8-minute walk and a 2-minute jog. Slowly start building up towards a 5-minute walk, 5-minute jog, and a 2-minute walk and 8-minute jog. Right? I'm a runner, so I like running, and I think walking is not value for your time.
Yeah. So most of us are members of the hash here, and people who have questions can definitely ask you more on the hash group, and several others are part of your running community groups. So we all interact with you very often. So I think this was more of a experience sharing and learning as to what will happen if you really put your mind to do something impossible. That's really something which came out so strongly. So I would say your pace or mine, I would love to get somewhere close to your pace, at least virtually, if not in real life.
Yeah, I mean, and I do all your paces. I do all your paces over 24 hours. So it's your pace and yours.
Right. Okay.
And
Okay.
there is, I think there is,
Okay.
yeah.
All
So
right.
yeah,
So I think we'll stop the presentation. We are exactly just on the hour, and we've kept scheduled to the dot T. If somebody has a question, please ask right away.
yeah,
Somebody, it's
sure.
there's a question. Thanks. You said you do 100K per week. You run every day or take breaks during the week?
I don't run every day. I do about I do about a couple of days of strength training, body weight, and elastic bands and all of that. And I run on the other days whenever possible. I do about 10, 15 kilometers a day kind of thing. Over the weekends, when I have to bump mileage up, I do that over the weekends. And this weekend, I'm planning to do a 100K weekend. So which means 50K on a Saturday and a 50K on a Sunday, spread over a morning, evening run. So I'll run 4 times this weekend. Probably 40K, 10K, 40K, 10K kind of.
Okay, so there's a good point which was made out here. You had come for our overnight ash event at Bangarpet, and that was really surprising. Many of us were just partying away in the night, and it was 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, and here we see Manoj Patwatia getting up to start
Yeah,
his run.
tell me about it. Yeah, tell me about it. Oh God, that was unbelievable. Yeah, so I was doing that, and I didn't woke up at 3 o'clock, and I like, and so all of those half tired, half drunk guys are still doing the karaoke, and I was like, oh God, it is amazing. So I took
There,
a picture. No one realized that I had taken a picture also, and then.
yeah,
But
they
thanks so
were
much. Yeah,
they
that
were
was
So
they were
Manoj, which shoe do you recommend?
which you
running shoes.
yeah, I mean, go for a good running shoe, right? I mean, whichever it is. So between Asics, Reebok, Puma, Nike, whatever, right? Pick a shoe, and I'm now with Saucony, so I would say go for Saucony. Uh, but all of these shoes will get you to a good running shoe will get you to 90% of what you need out of a shoe. The variation between the brand, I would say between your Asics and within that brand, Saucony within that will get you from 90 to 90. Okay, so incrementally you are not making too much, but spend that amount of money that it takes to get a good running shoe, because it essentially means that you're probably going to keep one. It is probably going to mentally make you stay committed. Already I've spent 10,000 bucks on a shoe. I might as well make use of it. Two, it will keep you injury free to some extent. So you will not give up midway. But the best thing is probably you'll start liking your running and walking so much that you will buy your next pair and you'll keep doing this.
How often do you change your shoes?
How often do I change my shoes? Recommended is 600,000 kilometers, but I don't follow any of the recommendations. I change my shoe when it hurts me. So when it hurts I start getting some shin pain, or when I look at the shoe and the sole is like completely worn out. That is when I change my shoe. I had a friend of mine called Ramesh, who is an ultra runner, who's used one pair of New Balance shoes for 10,000 kilometers at least. Right. So my recommendation is change your shoe when you start getting some kind of a pain, right, in your shin, or something's not feeling right, and you have spent 3 years with the shoe. Good time to change it. Radhika has a question. Go on, Radhika. You have to, yeah.
Hello, Manoj. Actually, I started running very recently. The shoes did not strike me till you told me, and I did not understand the importance of strength training for running. Can you explain it in detail? I just run 8 to 10 kilometers twice a week, and I'm 45 years old.
So here's the thing, right? You don't do. I mean, I wouldn't fix anything that is if it is not broken. Okay. So if your 8 to 10 kilometers is keeping you going all right, then just keep it going. All right. I mean, why do you want to even change anything, right? If
No.
you're getting some injuries, if there is, the likely suspect is a shoe if you haven't changed it for a while. If you're the other suspect is if you're doing too many things too quickly, right? If you have seen your neighbor do 10K in 55 minutes and you're at 60 and you want to go fast, not a great idea. Give your body about 6 months time to actually get there. Have patience. Not everyone is the same. Listen to your body and then and then follow that, right? So if there's nothing that is troubling you, don't change anything.
Okay, Manoj. Actually, nothing is troubling me. I just started having knee pain. Just started. It comes on and off. So I just wanted to know: is strength training very essential for this?
So here's what I would do. Okay, so I would give it time, right? So allow 6 months. Slow down or reduce your mileage. See, listen to your body, understand the knee pain a little more, and then if you and then also try and see if you can put 1 or 2 sessions of strength training, right? Like squats, lunges, whole lot of online stuff that's going on right now. Include some of that. See if the strength helps reduce the load of the knee and therefore help you enjoy your running. But just keep going, and if it doesn't work, then go see some physio. But there is no one who understands your body better than you, so listen to it, follow it, keep a log, keep a track, see what works, keep it, drop what doesn't work, and just
Thank
keep
you,
following
Manoj.
that. Yeah.
If you change your shoes, don't bring it to the hash.
Yeah, it's okay. You'll get free beer, which you can drink out of the hash, out of the shoe. Yeah, don't make us jealous.
There's another question about shoes, that how do you choose the right
Like
shoe?
I said, close your eyes. Do a lucky draw and pick one of those. Right? Pick. The brand is not important. Wear the shoe. Go to the store, see whether you can wear the shoe and get a feel, and just keep it. Like I said, right? 9 out of 10 times you can't go wrong with any of these brands that are making running shoes. Right? You can do gait analysis and all of that. It's good. If all of what it does is it gets you more committed to that particular shoe, right? I did gait analysis. I spent 15K, and therefore this has to fit for me and it will fit for me. So that's the thing. I know of a whole lot of ultra runners who run on decathlon shoes, or some of them even worse. So there's really no real there's a whole lot of science, but that science will only get you from 90 to 92. If you to get to from 20 to 90, you pick any of these brands. Reach out to me if you want good discounts on Saucony shoes. I will help you. Asics, New Balance, they're all good. Try those shoes. Try whatever feels good, and then go for it. That's about it. Anything else? Any
Yes.
other?
So I think we've had a fair variety of questions, and I would really like to thank you for spending this time with us. I'm sure if all of us enjoyed it and got inspired to do something different, either around running or something similar to running or anything else